Hi, welcome to Just Spooling Around Quilt Along by Nancy McNally. I take and number everything just like this. So I grab my Wonder Clips. Gotta love those Wonder Clips, right? And I use pieces of paper, of course, and write what block it's going with, and maybe, if you need to, the step. So for our first one, we're going to use our pieces. Here's number 6, and notice that's out of my darker fabric. And yes, for this project, I am going to use a different colorway. The original one, I pieced it just like you see on your pattern page. So for our first step, we're going to use our block 1, which we will get to in just a minute, those pieces and parts, but you're going to need fabric pieces 1, which are your 2.5-inch squares, number 2, number 4, number 5, and number 6. So let's get started. So what I have here are the instructions for block 1, but I want to point out to you all the areas that are highlighted in blue and in yellow, and you need to pay close attention to that. The blue highlighted steps are your instructions that we will be using for blocks 1 all the way through 12. So once we piece the center section of each block, we will need to come back and use steps 1 through 16, omitting steps 11, 12, and 13, because you're going to have all those made already. So let's get started. Our first block construction will be to take our fabric number 1, our lights, and we're going to draw a diagonal from corner to corner. So here is my favorite pen. Let's see if I can get this to where you can read this. It's the Water Erasing Styla pen. I love this pen. There we go. All right, so we're going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner, just one diagonal line. So our next step will be to place 1 on either end of your number 4 strips. Now, this is important that you do directional. You're going to put your drawn line on your right hand side from the top right hand corner, and it goes down into, whoops, as I move it. So your diagonal line goes from the top right hand corner into the piece of number 4. So I'm going to put a pin in there to hold it in place, and then I'm going to put the second one over here, and it stops, or excuse me, you place it to where the diagonal line runs from the top left and goes to the bottom towards the middle of that fabric strip. You're going to repeat this process on all number 1 and number 4 strips. This is the stitch and flip method that we're going to use. Once you have marked your diagonal line, you're going to sew directly on that diagonal line. I'd like to offer a quick tip before you begin sewing. So as we have our unit ready to sew, let me grab a pin so I can point to it. If you put this corner in first for sewing on your drawn diagonal line, and your needle pushes this down into the hole in your sewing plate, if you don't have, let me show you, here we go, if you don't have a single hole needle plate, then here's what you can do. All right, now before we do that, you can see this is just a hole that is only large enough for your needle to go through. So before you begin sewing, make sure your needle is in the correct position for using the single hole needle plate. So oftentimes when I'm working on a project that has numerous types of stitches and I can't use my single hole needle plate, what I will do I'm going to hold this out so you can see it. Instead of starting in this bottom corner over here for sewing, I will start over here. And this is easier for the feed dogs to grab this piece and pull it through. Once you have all your units sewn together, you're going to take a ruler and you're going to line your 1/4 inch line from the ruler on your sewn line, on your stitches, and you're going to cut a 1/4 inch away, and then those pieces and parts can go in your bowl. I love pretty bowls. So all of these I'm going to make as a part of the border. I told you I might have an optional border for you. And I have another little piece that we're going to create to also go along with these. So save those pieces. Okay, you want to continue cutting all of your triangles, the excess triangles off. Oh, I didn't think I went all the way through. I felt that one. There we go. There we go. So put those in my garbage bowl. You're going to turn it around and you're going to align and cut. So you're going to repeat that process on all of your number 2s, and what's the other numbers? Is it number 4? Yeah, it's number 1 and number 4. That's what it is. So once you do that, you're going to press. For pressing, flip your unit back. Easy peasy, right? So you want to repeat this process on all of these units. If you're wondering where, I'm going to move this back, that pretty purple mat comes from, I got it from Martelli Notions along with my nice mat. Isn't that pretty? Okay, let's move on to our next step. Now I have my parts ready for block 1. So you're going to take your strips and you're going to arrange them in a color pattern that's pleasing to your eye. For example, if you don't like the yellow down here, well then move it up here. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see if we like that one. Actually, I do. Oh, I like the yellow up against that teal. All right, so our next step now is you're going to join all of these together along the length, and then we will trim it to size. So now that you have joined all of your strips together for block 1, press them all in the same direction. So your next step will be to make sure that this is 6.5 inches. So just use any 6.5 inch ruler that you have, place it on top. The 3 1/4 inch line that's running horizontal right here lines up with the very center. That way, if you have to trim anything off, it will look nice and even. We're going to get our number 5s, place them on either side, and we're going to join those, and then you're going to press towards number 5. Our next is number 6, and it's going to go across the top and and across the bottom, just like that. Now that we have numbers 5 and 6 attached to our block, take 2 of number 2 and join them to either side. Press towards number 2. Now let's join the top and bottom, which were the first units that we worked on with the stitch and flip method. Once you join them, you want to press towards the block if you can. If the fabric wants to go towards, or the seam allowance, if it wants to go towards these, that's really okay. Nothing's going to harm it in any way, shape, or form. So it should want to go towards the actual block. And look, block 1 is done. How simple is that? I love it.